in the grand estate of Valdairn, a young woman who, by birthright, her name alone commanded respect. Her wealth was as vast as the ocean. Her family's influence, untouchable. She had everything, the finest education, countless admirers, and every luxury known to man. But as the years passed, her days were meticulously planned, filled with social events, meetings, and public appearances. She was expected to always smile. The true Letta Belle, the one with hopes, fears, was buried deep within her heart, life forever, nor the expectations they brought. She found a modest and secured a job as a waitress at a local cafe, who took Leela in as one of her own. Leela felt like a foreigner at first. It was on a chilly autumn evening, as Leela was cleaning up after the last of the evening rush, that she met him. He was a young artist, barely older than she, with dark, thoughtful eyes and a messy shock of hair that looked like it had never seen a comb. His name was Theo, and he had come to Grendale to find inspiration for his paintings. He spent his days sketching the coast, the people, the town itself. Leela had seen him before, of course, sitting in the corner of the cafe with his sketchbook. But tonight, their paths crossed for the first time. As she brought him a fresh cup of tea, he smiled at her, a warmth in his gaze that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. "You're new here," he said, his voice soft and easy. Leela hesitated before responding. "I'm just passing through." Theo studied her for a moment, sensing there was more to her than she let on. "Something tells me you're not just passing through. You seem different." Leela smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I'm trying to figure out who I really am." Theo's smile widened, and for the first time since arriving in Grendale, Leela felt like she wasn't alone. They spoke for hours that evening, sharing stories of their lives, of their dreams, of the things that had led them to where they were. Theo, too, had once been part of a world full of expectations. His family had wanted him to follow a more conventional path, one that led to money and status. But like Leela, he had walked away in search of something deeper. "You know," he said, glancing at her with a knowing look, "it's not always the world we leave behind that defines us. Sometimes it's what we choose to build from the pieces." Leela was moved by his words, and in Theo, she saw a reflection of herself. She found solace in his company, and over the weeks that followed, their bond grew stronger. Together, they explored the town, the countryside, and the cliffs by the sea. For the first time in her life, Leela felt free, but freedom came at a price. As Leela's happiness deepened, the shadow of her past loomed ever closer. Her family, unaware of her departure, had grown frantic with worrying. Her absence had caused an uproar, and private investigators were hired to search for her, scouring the towns, the villages, the remote corners of the country. They had been instructed to find the heiress, no matter the cost. One fateful afternoon, as Leela and Theo were walking along the shore, a figure approached from the distance. A well-dressed man, carrying a briefcase, caught her attention. It was one of her family's men. He had tracked her down. "Leela Valdairn," he called, his voice cold and formal. "You've been found." Leela's heart sank. Her secret was out. Theo stood beside her, confused and worried. Leela turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resolve. "I need to go." "Why?" Theo asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Why go back to that life? You don't belong there anymore." Leela's voice trembled as she answered, "I don't have a choice." The man from the estate approached them, offering a ride back to her family's mansion. Leela hesitated. Her heart ached to stay with Theo, but duty, responsibility, and the pressure of her family's legacy called to her. Theo reached out, holding her hand for a moment. "If you go back, I'll never see you again." "Will I?" Leela didn't answer immediately. She had to choose her family's expectations or the life she had begun to build for herself. And though she loved Theo deeply, a part of her still longed for the adventure that life had promised her. With a heavy heart, she let go of his hand and turned back at Valdairn Manor. The return to her old life was suffocating. The weight of her title, the endless lines of suitors and advisors, the pretense of it all, everything felt hollow. The wealth that had once seemed like a gift now felt like a prison. Days turned into weeks, and as she stood at her family's gala, surrounded by opulence and artificial smiles, something inside her snapped. She realized that while she could wear the dress and play the part of the heiress, she would never be truly happy unless she followed her heart. Without a moment's hesitation, Lada Bell made her decision. She walked away from her family's fortune once again. She didn't need it. She didn't need the title. She needed freedom. And she needed love. Lada Bell, or Leela, had finally discovered that happiness wasn't in the life she was born into, but in the choices she made for herself. She left the mansion in the middle of the night, this time without looking back. And this time, she knew exactly where she was going.
Oh, joy we find, healthy body, mind, comedy and flair, cooking love we share. Cities glow at night, rhythm feels so right, bass guitar groove tight, stars shining so bright. Mountains, oceans, riding through the air, fitness goes declare. Passport by my side, planes and trains we ride, fashion on the go, sunsets set the flow, laughter fills the air, no worries, no care, health and fitness fuse, cooking soul food use, wonderland.